Okay, I'm going to invite Tara. Hello.
Hi, Kelsey.
How's it going?
Good. Happy Tuesday to you.
Yeah, happy Tuesday to you as well. How's your summer going so
So
far?
far, so good. It feels like fall here in Minnesota. I woke up with it's a cool, crisp breeze, so refreshing.
Awesome. Nice.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get started. Hey, Facebook. I am so excited to talk to you about this topic today because personally, I have noticed so many people talk about how heartbroken and scared they are about what's happening around the world. And on the other hand, I hear people talk about how annoyed and outraged they are by all the media attention that has been dedicated to issues that they feel have been ignored for a very long time. And I'm seeing this all over Facebook. My clients are bringing this up with me, and I'm having discussions with my friends about how are we supposed to navigate through all of this. So I see it as a very important issue to discuss. And today I'm here with fellow coach and dear friend Tara Masson, and we're going to dive into a discussion today about how we react to not only these events, but everyone else's opinions about it all, and how can we fight for what we believe in, but allow ourselves to still feel joy and happiness without any guilt. So Tara, would you like to introduce yourself first?
Sure. Hi. Thank you so much for having me. So my name's Tara. I am a life coach, a writer, and a future yoga teacher. And I'm based in Minnesota. And I started Be Moved, foreverbemoved.com, which is an online community that helps people find more happiness and create more healthy habits in their life. But I also am a coach, and I am passionate about discussing real, timely topics. So when Kelsey invited me to discuss this topic of uncertainty, I was all in. So that's a little bit about me. And Kelsey, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Because there's so much that our viewers have to learn and about you.
So yes, I'm Kelsey-Matheson. I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a coach, and I'm a speaker. And my personal mantra is dream great dreams, then make them come true. And that is what I focus on in my personal life. And that's also what I teach my clients to do for themselves. I own Anamaya Resort, which is a yoga retreat center in Costa Rica. I own Bee Outfitters, which is a backpack and outdoor gear company that helps to put children around the world through school. I am the creator of the Optimal Health and Conscious Living Academy, which is an 8-week online course for women who feel like the rug has been ripped out from underneath them in terms of their health and wellness. And I'm, and like I mentioned, I'm also a coach. And so I felt that it would be a lot of fun for Tara and I to come together today to talk about some really important topics. And I feel like this is really timely. So, here's the thing. This isn't new. Right? There's always been hatred around the world. Terrorism has been around for a very long time. This isn't a new phenomenon, and hatred can be clothed in many ways. And that being said, now I think, the issue is that this is all we're hearing about these days, and it's becoming overwhelming. And I know personally that if I don't take a break from listening to the news, I would become a depressed puddle on the floor, unable to function. Right? So how do we deal? Because even though hatred is not new, what I've learned over the years is that silence is also dangerous, right? Silence can be portrayed as approval and potentially stating that it's okay when you know that it's not. So how do we balance standing up for what we believe in, but also continue living our lives with vitality and joy, but not feeling guilty for doing it? So I think, it's our responsibility to be the shiners of light. I think it's also our responsibility to be the messengers of love. And so Tara and I are going to ask, each other a few questions. So I'm going to start with you, Tara. So I know that it's really important for you to stand up for what you believe in. And I think a lot of people, some people may be confused about that. Some people may, have very strong opinions about what they stand for. Once you know what you stand for and what you don't, what are some tips in standing up for those values, but not getting caught up in the negativity or the overwhelm that can inherently come from involving yourself in a movement that you believe in?
Mm-hmm.
I think that there's sometimes can be a slippery slope there. So what is your advice?
Absolutely. You know, whether or not you are standing up for maybe a new habit, or a new way of living your life, or joining a social movement, when things get tough, when there's negative press, when there's overwhelm in your passion for what you stand for, I think the best thing to do is go back to the basics, right? And when we go back to the basics and ask ourselves, why am I doing this? Why do I stand for this? You know, it doesn't matter if it's personal, and it doesn't matter if it's social. No matter what you stand for, sometimes in your life you're going to be met with indifference and maybe negativity, which it's unfortunate, but it happens. But if you get crystal clear on your why are you standing for this? Why do you want this change in your life, or want this change in your community? Why is this important to you? That clarity is going to keep you going forward. And whether it's, you know, maybe imagine yourself walking through mud of this negativity, but it's going to keep propelling you forward in the face of adversity. So go back to the basics, know your why. And sometimes it's hard to know your why. You know, sometimes we turn on the media and all we hear is bad news, bad news, bad news. But if we just shut everything out and just tune in to why this is important to me, why I value this, why I stand for this, then you can move forward with action and, you know, discern what you will pay attention to. But no, that's a great question, and which leads me into asking you a question about, you know, we turn on the news and the headlines, I mean, like you said earlier, it's enough to get depressed, right? We turn on social media and, you know, regardless of who you're friends with on social media, you're going to see negative headlines, and it is so easy to get wrapped up in it. And it's so easy to feel wrapped up and bombarded. So what are some things that you do to keep you happy during, happy and positive and optimistic during these times of uncertainty?
Yeah, I think this is really great. And I can share with you what I do, because I have a number of things I do that keep me in a positive state, and hopefully they can be tips that others can use. But number one, I meditate. And I literally call this my magic pill, because it grounds me. It allows me to tap into a more calm state when I'm feeling anxious. It reduces my stress levels significantly, and it allows me to react to the situations that are happening around me more consciously. So, you know, for me, that's meditation. For others, that might be prayer. But it allows you to tap into higher levels of consciousness that will not only help you to cope, but inherently your increased frequency will permeate others, and then it helps them to cope, right? So there's a domino effect. It's so powerful. It's really powerful stuff. And you don't have to be all woo-woo about meditation. You know, it's become very mainstream, and there's a reason why massive companies, you know, on Wall Street or, you know, in Silicon Valley, for example, are recognizing the importance of meditation and literally have meditation rooms set up for their employees because they recognize the benefits of it. And then something else that I do is I have a gratitude practice, but I know that in times of overwhelm or stress, I need to take it to another level. Like, I need to really make it a priority. So I do this in a few ways. One of them is with my family. At dinner time, we have this practice that we call happy moments. So we discuss each other's happy moments. We go around the table and we discuss each other's happy moments, but we also talk about any sad or frustrating moments that we might have. And it gives us all the opportunity to talk about what's going on in our lives and how we feel about it. And there's only one rule, and the one rule is there has to be at least one happy moment that we're grateful for. And then I also have a gratitude journal. And I know a lot of people, this is a practice that they use. And for me, I write in it every night before I go to bed. And it allows me to focus on all the abundance in my life and all the joy in my life that I'm experiencing. And it really helps me to put things into perspective. And I'm not talking about, I want to be clear that I'm not talking about ignoring, the issues that are causing us to feel uncertain and fearful. But we can't dwell in those feelings because that's not at all helpful, right? So action is helpful. Having conversations is helpful. Connecting with yourself and with others, now more than ever is really helpful. But dwelling in a victim state or in a fearful state is not doing anybody any good. And if those feelings or fear or frustration, if they motivate healthy action, then that's conscious living. And I think, staying in that, oh my God, I'm overwhelmed, I can't function, staying in that state is toxic. Mm-hmm. And so, and then one other thing that I'll share, something that is, that for me is another magic pill is just simply spending time with my family and my dearest friends. So, they are my foundation for everything in my life. And after I spend some really sweet quality time with my loved ones, then I just naturally feel an amazing sense of peace and joy. So that's a really big one for me.
It sounds like these three practices that you just said, meditation, gratitude, and connecting with your family, it sounds like these activities have in common, they're grounding activities. They're back to the basics, right?
Like you were mentioning.
Yes. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. It's simple. It's something that anyone can do, but often we get so busy and wrapped up and overwhelmed that we forget to do these basic things.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I think this kind of leads into my question for you too. So the next question I have is, when things are going really well for you, right? And you see another devastating headline on the news, how are you affected? Like, how do you stay balanced, or do you? Are there times when you are hit really hard, and if you are, how do you come back from that?
Great question. So many of us in the coaching space or in the career path of helping others, whether that's healthcare or social work or whatever that is, many of us are empaths. We are feelers, right? We wear our emotions on our sleeve. How we're feeling. And the truth is I personally, I absorb people's energies very, very quickly. And I make a conscious choice to only check the news at a specific time, meaning that I have to be completely okay to check that news, meaning I am not overwhelmed with my personal projects, and I'm also not overwhelmed with any emotion. So I don't check the news in the morning, because the first thing that I do in the morning is prime myself for a good day. And I know checking the news in the morning is not going to lead to priming myself for a good day. Granted, I also think that we can be extremely careful with what type of news we allow into our lives. So when I do tune into the news, I literally give myself a timer, like 20 minutes, that's it. Because like you mentioned before, it's so easy to turn on CNN or Fox or whatever news outlet it is and read a headline, read parts of the story, then go to the next one, then go to the next one. And most likely these headlines are not the most positive, uplifting news. If anything, negative news can be addicting. It really can. And
Very true.
Yeah, and it can overwhelm us. So I think what we have to do is, first, if I can offer my 2 cents, don't start your day off with the news. Don't wake up checking Facebook or CNN. Let's stay away from that. Let's use that space and time to fill ourselves up with what we need so we can show up purposefully in the day. But when you do check the news, and back to what you said, because there's chaos and uncertainty going on in the world, doesn't mean we turn a blind cheek to it. We don't want to totally ignore it, because that is just as bad as engaging in negativity. But we want to be mindful and really, really particular of how we absorb news, how much we're absorbing it, and where we're coming, and where this news is coming from. So I will be honest and say, even with strategies of only, 20 minutes of news a day, I still get wrapped up. I'm an emotional person. There are times where I call my mom and say, can you believe this headline? Or, I'll call my boyfriend, or maybe even text you and say the same thing. But the thing is release it. If it's something that's bugging you, release it. Like, talk it over with a friend, family member, whoever that is, but do it productively. Figure out, why does this bug me? Why am I not okay with this? And what can I do with it? Because that's the next thing. Am I going to choose to dwell in this? We shouldn't do that. But what can I do? Can I share it with a friend and start a movement? Could I, participate in a local event? It's being mindful of how you absorb news and what you choose to do with it. So I think those are the two key components, which, that leads to a question for you. This world we're living in is full of uncertainty with politics, with religion, with terrorism, with poverty. I mean, I could keep going on and on. A lot of this has to do with external events. We sit in our home in our cushy couches and watch as the chaos and uncertainty and suffering happens. So would you agree that embracing change all around you is the best option during these times, or do you suggest something else?
So I love this question because there are a few quotes that I love to use in my coaching and also in my courses that have to do with change. And I believe that everything happens for a reason. And I think the good, the bad, the ugly. And I know that it's really hard to wrap our heads around violence towards others, or human trafficking, the political chaos that, is happening around the world right now, or even, cruelty towards animals, and all of these other atrocities that we feel like we really can't control. It's really hard to imagine that this is all supposed to happen for a reason. And I know some issues hold more weight than others for some people, but if these awful things are happening for a reason, then how do we process that? And I think something else people talk about is that these atrocities have been happening for a very, very long time. And I brought that up at the beginning of this video. And much worse has happened in our history here on Earth. But the fact is that this hatred and times of uncertainty, if they have been happening for hundreds of thousands of years, but it doesn't diminish the stress and the anxiety that people are feeling today. So those feelings are legitimate and they're totally valid. Mm-hmm. So the fact is, we do live in a world that provides us with significant challenges. But if it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you. So if that means more light needs to be shed on these issues, for more action to take place, for more conversations to happen, for more education and more guidance, then that's what we need to do. And here's another quote that I really love using. It's, old ways won't open new doors. And I know change can be scary for some, but sometimes we end up in a crisis situation before we're really able to shift our environment, right? So there has to be some kind of fire under our butt before we stand up and do something. And I think the great thing is that change creates powerful growth, and it also triggers progress. Mm-hmm. So new opportunities will present themselves with change. And I think it's important to remember that the reason we resist change is because it's challenging and it's scary and it can be hard. Mm-hmm. But overcoming those challenges inevitably make us all stronger. So and that could be individual, that could be changes within your family, your community, around the world, your country. So I do think that embracing change is important, and I know that it's hard. But I think it's crucial in terms of, triggering that that progress and that growth that's necessary.
And, I love that quote. I actually have it on my tag board right here. Old ways won't open new doors. I think that's a quote you just said. So yeah. That's a fantastic quote.
Yeah, I love that one. Old ways won't open new doors. And if it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you. And I think that's really important to remember, especially when you're in that space of overwhelm. So Tara, how do you stay open-hearted and optimistic? What are some tips that you can share, on what people can do to hold their heads high?
Well, I think, today, I guess I'm all about the basics. And the reason why is because the basics have so much power in them and we forget it. And I'm going to start with something many of us have heard before, and that is the mind mirrors what the body's doing. So if I'm sitting here and I'm feeling overwhelmed, my shoulders are drawn in, maybe I have my arms crossed, that is not an open heart. That is not sending a message to the world that I'm optimistic, that I have a positive attitude. So this may sound corny, and that's fine, but this works. If you are feeling overwhelmed, if you are feeling, anxious about what's going on in the world and what to do next, I think the best thing that you can do is literally get out of your head and into your body, like Tony Robbins says. And what you can first do is open up those shoulders, walk into a room with, really open posture. And that literally says to anyone who encounters you that you have an open heart, that you are here to receive and to, connect with other people. So start with your body. If you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling anxious, pull those shoulders back. I'm not going to tell you to fake a smile, but I am going to tell you to embrace a confident stance, whether you're standing, walking, sitting, whatever it is. It starts with that. And the next thing, besides the physical posturing of the body, is to let go of expectations. And this one is tough. When for example, if I expected Kelsey here to give me a call after we were done with this Facebook Live, and she doesn't, what's going to happen? I'm going to be disappointed, right? I'm going to be hurt. I may be wondering, why didn't Kelsey call me? Why doesn't she want to chat? But the only reason why I'm having these thoughts is because I expected something of you. I placed an expectation on you that you may not be aware of. And I think a lot of pain, suffering, maybe conflict with people in our life and communities all around us have to do with unrealistic expectations, right? If I expect someone to act and behave a certain way and they don't, then I'm upset. But that person behaving and acting like that, they're completely fine because they have no idea of my expectations of them. So I think it's best to drop the expectations, and that even includes yourself. So those two things, the physical posturing and letting go of expectations, is a great way to eliminate any sort of energy or emotion or attitude that can come in and hijack a positive attitude, especially during times of uncertainty. So let go of those expectations. So again,
yeah, I think that's really important, because the expectations too, if you're able to really step back and recognize what's serving you and what's not, and letting go of those expectations, that's what I love talking about as well, is conscious living. That is living more consciously, and I think that's really important. And like you were saying, the posturing, just opening up your body, whether you do it whether you're sitting, whether you walk through a door, even just through yoga, it just opens up your body. That has incredible benefits. And to go back to what you said, another Tony Robbins quote is, motion creates emotion.
Yes.
Or was it emotion? Something like that. I think I have that wrong. But basically, he's just like, one of the cures, what I talk about in my course, one of the cures for depression is exercise, getting your body moving. And, or when you're really feeling overwhelmed, go practice yoga, go for a run, or just go for a walk in the park with your dog, but just move. Mm-hmm. And I think that's also really important, and goes along with what you were saying in terms of just literally changing your posture.
Sure. And, that leads to the next question is, how do you handle an overload of negative emotions, right? Like, we can let go of expectations. We can, exercise. We can ask for help. But sometimes, let's be honest, that is not enough. So what do you do when you're overloaded with negative emotions and negative energy, and you're trying to keep your cool and you're sane and you're happy? And what do you do? How do we handle it?
I think that's a good question too. And I'm going to probably, touch upon a few things that you talked about. Number one being you have to unplug and step away. So if you are feeling if you're feeling anger or overwhelmed by what you're seeing on Facebook or what you're watching on CNN, then it's time to take a deep breath and walk away. And I know, now I should say that I do watch some of the programming on CNN. I am a fan of some of their programming, but I also hear people talk about CNN meaning constantly negative news. Like, because the media is just, they're looking to gain their viewers. And like you said, bad news can be addictive, right? So, and again, I'm not saying that you need to ignore what's going on around the world. And I think it's important to feel compassion towards others who are in pain. But once you've decided on what causes you believe in supporting and how you want to support those causes, then part one of your homework is done, right? So for example, you might have 3 organizations that you really believe in supporting because they will help to perpetuate the changes that you want to see in the world, right? And of those 3 organizations, you can donate your time or money. You can share their posts on social media. You can reach out to your friends who you think will also believe in these causes. Do your research, know your causes, and then know how you want to support them. And then part 2 consists of your focus inward and staying balanced and non-reactionary. So that's where my tips on meditation, I think, and time spent with family, they come into play. And for me personally, I use something that I call my moments of joy. And I use this with my clients as well. So I have my clients create a list of everything and anything that causes them joy. And it could be exercising. It could be baking. It could be, like I mentioned, going for a walk with your dog, or calling an old friend, or, reading a good book. It could be making love. It could be, write down everything and anything you can think of that brings you joy, and then incorporate 1 or 2 of those moments into your day. Because where focus goes, oh my God, today we're all about the quotes. Where focus goes, energy flows.
I love it.
And I think that's also another Tony Robbins quote. But where focus goes, energy flows. So your energy will be dedicated to changing the world through the organizations you're supporting. And the focus will also be going towards your moments of joy, which will help you stay balanced and grounded. And I think that is, and then at that point, if you have your bases covered, you can see another atrocity happening in the world, and it's going to impact you. You're going to feel that, but you also know that, okay, I've got my bases covered in terms of, staying balanced and grounded and not buying into the chaos.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, another thing that comes up too is a lot of people are feeling maybe a bit uneasy about talking about certain events that have negative press or negative connotations. So with respect to that, how do we react accordingly in these times of uncertainty? How do we fight for what we believe is right, but at the same time allow ourselves to, fully experience joy and happiness and all the great things life has to offer? Because, let's be honest, we've all been in a bad mood. And we have for me personally, I've been in bad moods and maybe walked into a room and saw a whole bunch of happy people and went, why are they so happy? You know what I mean?
Right.
So how do we check ourselves, from rather reacting, but to figure out what happens next? How do we show up, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think in terms of happiness, let me touch upon happiness, because on a very basic level, happiness is experienced when you feel frequent positive emotions, right? It's pretty simple. So the other thing I like about happiness is that we're all in total control of our own happiness. And we've all seen the quotes about happiness being a decision, or how we're responsible for our own happiness, or happiness is an inside job. Oh my God, this really is the discussion of quotes today. But and all of that is true. I buy into all of that. I do believe that is all true. But when you're living day to day and you're raising your kids and you're building your career and you're navigating life with your life partner and daily stressors, we normally don't think to ourselves when we're stuck in traffic and our dog has been diagnosed with an illness, or our partner's just been laid off. Like, we don't really take that moment to think, okay, I have the power to create my own happiness. I mean, that's just not realistic. And I know I'm happy when I'm experiencing joy. And I usually experience joy when I'm living on point with my life's purpose and my core values. So if things get off course and I'm feeling overwhelmed, then there are legitimate stressors in my life that are causing me anxiety. Then my life's purpose and my core values are my touchstones that I can go back to and figure out where I'm lost and where I need to focus a bit more time and energy on in order to find that balance again. So when I work with my clients on creating their core values, basically we talk about how your core values are your fundamental beliefs. Okay, so they represent what you stand for and they guide your behavior. So it can take a while to come up with those, but I have them, and I did this myself. I have 5 core values that are my top personal values, and I have my clients do the same thing. So when things aren't feeling so happy, then they can go back to those values and figure out what areas need a bit more attention, right? When we don't honor what we believe in, then it will literally compromise our physical, emotional, and mental health. So I think that's really important. And, and I invite anybody out there, if they want to come up with their own personal core values, what are your fundamental beliefs? It's a pretty interesting exercise. But then it becomes your touchstone of when things are off and, things aren't going your way, or you're feeling anxiety or your stress levels are elevated. And you can go back to that and say, okay, where am I off track? But I have another question for you, Tara. So if you do walk into a room and you have had like the crappiest day and there's another awful headline on the news and you did get some really bad, news about a loved one or, something like that. And you're really feeling that, because I know how sensitive you are, and you walk into a room with a bunch of people who are like having the best day ever. Do you allow that energy to fuel you, or do you feel resentment? Like, what are you, or even, experiences of some of your clients? Like, can you share a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. There have been times where I've walked into a room after just a terrible day, and, a bunch of my friends or family are extremely happy, and I am just not in the mood, right? But that's fine. Life happens. We experience emotions. We're human beings, right? So what I do is I check myself, and I refuse to engage in my own negative emotions. Meaning, if I need to be quiet, if I need to give myself an adult time out to take some deep breaths, I will. Another thing that I've also done too is I've gone up to people, granted that they're a dear friend and trusting and understanding, and let them know, hey, I've had a really crappy day and I see that you're super happy. Can I have a hug? And, that sounds really, really corny, and maybe not a lot of us have that ability, in all situations. But sometimes just human touch and vulnerability and letting someone know, I'm having a hard time right now and I need some support. And just by saying that, asking for help, that is a sign of strength, right? But here I want to be extremely careful and say, I don't want to go up to a friend and say, I'm having a really bad day and I want to vent. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with venting, but I'm saying that if I allow negativity to continue to spill out of my soul, then what's going to happen is I'm going to keep perpetuating that negativity. And it's going to be harder to break that cycle. So if I ask someone, hey, I'm having a hard day, can I have a hug? Or what's going on with you? Cheer me up, and just get really honest. And you know what? There are times where things just did not go well. And sometimes you need time alone. And that's okay, but don't dwell, right? But that's a great question. I think a lot of us, especially turning on the headlines, turning on the news, I mean, it is so easy to get wrapped up and feel low and hopeless and maybe even a bit lost. So I think quiet time without dwelling and being productive and maybe even a little bit vulnerable, you know, hey, because vulnerability strengthens our relationships with others. It connects us. And especially in times of uncertainty, we need connection. That's what we're all craving for.
Yeah, I think, and also connection with ourselves. So if that means you need to be vulnerable by drawing yourself a bath and pouring yourself a glass of wine and having a big, long cry, then that's also, I think, totally natural. It's healthy. And I think you're purging that emotion. You're not, you know, shoving it down, you're releasing it. And then that's when you decide, okay, now I'm going to take action. What can I do? Because I can't dwell in it. I can't sit in this victim role, because that's when it becomes unhealthy. Right.
Absolutely.
So we talked a little about that before, not dwelling in that. But I think you're right. Like connection with yourself, connection with others. And yeah, I love that. I just need a hug, right? That human connection. Yeah.
And, you know, I also want to touch upon your course, because I went through your course a couple times now, and your course in the beginning of the first 8 weeks, oh my gosh, does that really, it requests members to get really in tune with yourself. And it's, the first 2 weeks are amazing because you get to know yourself in ways that you haven't experienced. And that's extremely important, especially during times of uncertainty, whether that's personal or social or global. But can you tell us a little bit about the first 2 weeks of your course with getting to know yourself and how that's impacted your clients 6 weeks later or even a month later?
Yeah, so I mean, I think it's really important. So with my Optimal Health and Conscious Living Academy, it's an 8-week online course that women take, and we do something called the Wheel of Health. And the Wheel of Health basically is the 8 areas of your health that you need to focus on to get optimal and to live consciously. And so I have everyone fill out this wheel, and it normally, I actually have one here. I didn't know you were going to talk about this, but I have one here. So this is a wheel of health. And you can see that if it was a wheel, if that was on my car, it would be a pretty bumpy road, right? So the first week we talk about connection and desired outcomes. And one of the reasons why we talk about this is because you don't know how to get to where you're going unless you know where you are. So I have my clients, which you've been through, Tara, fill out a questionnaire. And this also, you know, harkens back to what you were talking about your why. Why are you taking this course? Why do you need change in your life? What is holding you back? And also, what do you think, you know, is going to pop up in terms of you sabotaging yourself? And how can you overcome that? So we do that the first week. Before we dive into anything else, we talk about that. So your desired outcomes come next as well in terms of, like, you know, what do you want to get out of this? But it has to come from your why. So then desired outcomes. What do I want? I want A, B, C, D, and E. This is what I want, and this is why. And then we talk about connection. And first we talk about connection with ourselves, and then we talk about connection with others. So I've created a community of women to help other women, because I think we all need that connection. We all need to talk with people who are experiencing similar issues that we are, and we need to do it in a private and sacred space. That is separate from, you know, what's happening on Facebook, that is separate from what's happening on CNN, that is separate from what's happening in their workplace, or even with at the dinner table with their family. They, you know, so that's really, really important. And then I partner my students up with accountability partners. So they have somebody that they are going to be accountable to every single week, and that they're going to talk about their goals. They're going to connect with that other person. They're going to find out how that other person is doing and support them in whatever ways they need to. And the one great thing about the course is that it's not a one-size-fits-all, because your path, Tara, to optimal health and conscious living is going to look very different than mine. And I think that's also really, really important. Like my wheel is going to look very different from your wheel, like, you know, also compared to the rest of the women who are taking the course. So I believe that that's really important to start with, you know, that connection with yourself. We also do something called a feelings exercise. And that is really mind-blowing, which you know, because you've done it a few times.
Yes, it is.
And that's a way to connect with yourself. And I literally have everyone set a timer on their clock for every hour of the day. And when that timer goes off, you have to literally sit down and check in with yourself and where your emotions are at, what you're feeling, and you have to write them all down and just do a little check-in. And then next hour, that alarm goes off, and then okay, I got to check in. How am I feeling right now? And I provide a list of emotions because sometimes it's hard to think like, I'm happy, I'm mad, I'm sad, I'm glad, you know, they're just, you know, but we're going to have a list of emotions that's, you know, pretty long that you can go over and go, oh yeah, no, this is more accurately what I'm feeling or what I'm thinking. So when you recognize how much, number one, your emotions fluctuate throughout the day, how unconscious we are to our emotions and our feelings at any given moment, and how easy it is to shift them.
Yes.
It blows your mind, and you just inherently start to live more consciously. So
and, you know,
that's how we start the course.
in your course, you know, the essence of your course from the first time I went through it to maybe the second time I went through it is it allows you and gives you permission to raise your standards in your life. Meaning, like, how are you going to talk to yourself? How are you going to feel your body? And how are you going to connect with other people? In this community that you built, it's all women. It's a private Facebook group. And you go into this Facebook group, and it is full of raw, real emotions. You know, it isn't sugar coating fluff quotes. It is real life issues. You know, one week we focus on meditation, and people will be posting in the community, hey, I'm not good at this. What can I do? You know, and then you have a flood of answers from people who love meditation and who are new. And that's the unique thing about your course is it's so timely right now, especially for all this uncertainty. You know, you've created a community that has this unique stillness, but this stillness of growing, you know, to figure out your why and how you want to show up. It's amazing. So can you tell us?
I mean, I feel like just to actually add to that real quick is that it is a very sacred space. And I think that's something else that everyone is looking for right now, but in particular women who, if they already are feeling chaotic in terms of their health and well-being, and then everything else around them is going on as well that we've been talking about, you know, in this discussion, that's like major burnout. That's complete overwhelm. So when the women have this sacred community that they can go to, I find that it benefits them in so many ways. It's not just their health and well-being. It's just it's all a lot more encompassing than that. But I have so my Optimal Health and Conscious Living Academy is launching September 11th. It is the first or it is the last time I'll be doing it in 2017. So I will be running it again in 2018, but this is the last time I'm doing it in 2017. It starts on September 11th. And you can go to my website, Kelsey-Matheson.com, to check that out. But if you want a taste test, then I have an optimal lifestyle challenge that I've relaunched. It's new and improved, and it normally sells for about $197. But I'm promoting it like crazy right now and offering it for only $7.
Yes.
So, you know, this is for ladies out there who feel like the rug has been ripped out from underneath them in terms of their health and well-being. And that just feel like they need that sacred space. They need that community that they can go to. So I invite you to go to Kelsey-Matheson.com. You can check out, it's the Optimal Lifestyle Challenge. It's $7. It's a 4-part video series, and it goes over the loss of libido and, like you mentioned, mindfulness meditation and sleep deprivation and so much more. And I also include some really great take-home bonuses in that challenge. So if you want a little taste test of the Optimal Health and Conscious Living Academy, then you can do this Optimal Lifestyle Challenge for $7. And even if you were to only do that, there's 5 challenges in this challenge. If you were to only do those 5 challenges, it'll take your health and your wellness and your conscious living up to new heights. And I feel like that will help in itself just to relieve some of the overwhelm that we've all been experiencing.
So if someone were to sign up for this challenge, the $7 challenge that you have, how much time would it take for them to go through the challenge? What's the time requirements for this?
Yeah, it's a good question. So it's 4 videos. You get the first video instantly. And then the 3 following days, you get your next video. Oh. And I don't think there's any video that's longer than 25 minutes. So literally 20 minutes a day for 4 days after you sign up. And then you have your challenges that you incorporate into your life.
I like it. So, I like it. Short and sweet and action-packed. Nice. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. And so, Tara, also, I want to give you an opportunity to talk about what you're doing right now and your coaching. So I'm going to hand the floor over to you.
Oh, sure. So I am a fire starter session facilitator. And if anyone listening isn't familiar with what that means, this is a program put together by the lovely Miss Danielle Laporte. And I was awarded a scholarship by her team, which was fantastic. And what I plan on doing with this coaching program that is very unique and very powerful is helping people figure out exactly their why and their what and their how and their who. Meaning, let's dive into your life and figure out, what don't you like? What isn't going well? And what are you willing to do to change that? And what can we do as partners? Because sometimes we just need someone to whisper in our ear and say, you can do it. Or how about try just a little harder? Come on, you can do it, and that's what a coach is. We're not therapists. We are future forward people. We are partners to go along this journey with you. So I want to help people find clarity. But within my own coaching practice, I also specialize in helping people in the recovery space. I am 4 years sober from alcohol, which is an amazing thing. And it has lit a fire underneath my butt to help other people, because life is so much better without alcohol. And so, what does that mean? Does that mean that you have to be completely sober to coach with me? Absolutely not. Does it mean you can drink? And sure, that is just a subspecialty for me. So, I'm here to help you, whether if you're in the recovery space or if you just want a new, fresh perspective on your life and to create more opportunities. So, Kelsey's offering her her $7 course and letting everyone know about her academy that starts again on September 11th. But I also wanted to throw it out there that I am looking for 2 people to receive 2 complimentary coaching sessions. So what does that mean? It means we start either this week or early next week, and we do a coaching session, a 1-hour session. We do 2 of them. And we see what happens. We see what changes you can create, and that's that. So I'm throwing that out there. I want to connect with more people. I want to positively impact this world. And it starts with showing up, and it starts with saying what you stand for. And today, this conversation is it's a perfect example of being clear and sharing it with the world.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's great. And anyone who's listening should definitely take Tara up on that offer. And you don't necessarily have had to watch this live. So we're gonna post this on my page. It'll be posted on Tara's page. So feel free also to leave comments below with anything that you've heard today, anything that is working for you, where you're feeling the overwhelm. We would love to hear from you. And Tara and I will both check in on this video and be sure to reply to any comments as well. And the other thing I should mention is we are planning on doing this twice a month.
Yes. Yes. So you know what? I love Facebook Live, and I love it when it's organic and it isn't so scripted. So I want to throw it out there to anyone who's watching to either private message Kelsey and I, or put in the comments, hey, could you guys talk about this topic? Because the truth is, these topics that that we're talking about on Facebook Live or are on our own websites and blogs, a lot of these topics are generated from our clients or from our readers, and we pay close attention to the communities we're involved with. So if there's something that you're struggling with and want to know more about, private message us. Put it in the comments. Please. Share it on your page. The more the merrier. We want to create this awesome community that is willing to stand in their own truth and rock it. So
that's it. Nice. Nicely put. And Tara and I will let everyone know when our next video is going to be, when our next discussion is going to be. I'm super excited. Let us know what you want to hear about. And yeah, thank you, Tara. This has been so much fun.
Yeah, no, thank you, Kelsey. You always get me inspired and jazzed up. So I don't need to reach for my latte right now.
No, All right, love. Well, have a fantastic week. Everyone else, have a fantastic week as well. Try to stay balanced. Incorporate some of the tips that we spoke about. Let us know if they've helped. And yeah, we'll talk next time.
Fantastic. Thank you, Kelsey.
All right. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.